He never bought a single thing, but he never missed a day. The wind cuts through the narrow Brooklyn street, rattling the metal legs of a folding table where Emily Carter stands. Her fingers numb as she carefully arranges handmade bracelets and silver pendants under a flickering street lamp. Each piece is delicate, imperfect, real, just like her life right now. Her coat is too thin for the 38-degree air, her sneakers worn at the edges, but she forces a smile every time someone walks by, even when they don't stop, even when they don't look. Because every dollar matters, every dollar gets her one step closer to paying for her mother's treatment. She glances across the street again, and there he is, same spot, same still posture, hands in his coat pockets, watching, not approaching, not speaking, just watching. It's been 5 days now, 5 mornings of him showing up like clockwork at exactly 8:10 a.m., standing beneath the shadow of a closed coffee shop, his face half hidden, his expression unreadable. Emily swallows, pretending not to notice, but her chest tightens every time their eyes almost meet. Who does that? Who stands there and stares without buying, without leaving, without saying a word? She shifts her attention back to a customer, a woman picking up a bracelet, asking if it's real silver. Emily nods gently, explaining how she shapes each piece by hand in her tiny apartment, how she polishes them late into the night while her mom sleeps in the next room. The woman hesitates, then walks away without buying. Emily exhales slowly, her breath visible in the cold, her hands trembling slightly as she picks up the bracelet again. Across the street, the man hasn't moved. Something about him feels wrong, not dangerous exactly, but intentional, like he's not just passing by, like he's waiting. Emily tightens her grip on the edge of the table, her mind racing. Should she say something? Should she pack up early? Should she pretend she doesn't care? But then a gust of wind nearly knocks over her display, and instinct takes over as she lunges forward, catching a tray of rings before they scatter onto the sidewalk. A few still slip, clinking against the concrete. She crouches quickly, gathering them, her fingers shaking harder now, not just from the cold. When she looks up again, her breath catches. He's closer, not across the street anymore, but standing just a few feet away. She didn't even hear him cross. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The city hums around them, distant traffic, a siren somewhere far off. But here, right in front of her, everything feels still. Emily straightens slowly, brushing her hands against her jeans, forcing her voice steady. "Can I help you?" she asks, her tone cautious, guarded. His eyes move over the table, then back to her, something unreadable flickering behind them. He doesn't reach for anything, doesn't pull out his wallet. Instead, he just studies her, like he's trying to understand something no one's ever bothered to notice. And then, quietly, almost like a test, he says, "What would you do if someone couldn't afford to pay?" Emily blinks, thrown off, her heart beating just a little faster now. She looks down at the jewelry, then back at him, and for a second, she forgets about the cold, the money, the fear, because something about that question feels bigger than a simple sale. Something about him feels like the beginning of a story she didn't choose, but can't walk away from. Emily holds his gaze for a second longer than she should, her fingers tightening around the cold edge of the table as the question lingers in the air between them. It is not the kind of question people usually ask when they want to buy something. And yet there is nothing mocking in his tone, nothing careless, just quiet curiosity. Almost like he is waiting for something real. She exhales slowly, her breath soft and visible in the chilly morning. And then she shrugs slightly, her voice steady, but honest as she says, "Then I would tell them to pay me when they can." Because the truth is she has already done it before, more times than she can count, even when she should not have. His eyes flicker, just for a moment, like something inside him shifts, and he reaches out, finally picking up a simple silver bracelet, turning it between his fingers as if it matters more than it should. "And if they never come back?" he asks, quieter now, and Emily lets out a small breath that almost turns into a laugh, but not quite, because there is nothing funny about it. "Then I guess I hope they needed it more than I needed the money," she replies, and for the first time, he does not respond right away. Instead, he looks at her like she just said something he has not heard in a very long time. The city noise drifts back in slowly. Footsteps, car horns, distant voices, but the moment stays suspended, fragile and strange. He nods once, almost to himself, and then slips the bracelet into his pocket without offering any cash, without reaching for a wallet. Exactly like he said he would. Emily notices, of course she does, but she does not stop him, does not call him out, even though a part of her wants to, because she cannot afford to lose even a few dollars right now. Instead, she just watches him, searching his face for some kind of explanation, but he only gives her a quiet, almost grateful look before stepping back. "Thank you," he says, simple, sincere, and then he turns and walks away, disappearing into the morning crowd as if he was never there. Emily stands still for a moment, her heart beating faster than it should, her mind trying to catch up with what just happened, because something about that exchange does not feel like a loss, even though it should. She shakes it off, forcing herself back into motion, rearranging her display, greeting the next passerby, pushing forward like she always does. But every few minutes, without meaning to, her eyes drift back to that same spot across the street, half expecting him to reappear. He does not. Not that morning. Not by noon. Not even when the sun finally breaks through the gray clouds for a brief hour. And yet, as she packs up her unsold jewelry later that afternoon, her fingers brushing over the empty space where the bracelet used to be, she cannot ignore the strange feeling settling in her chest, like something small just changed direction. What she does not see, what she cannot possibly know, is that 2 blocks away, inside a black SUV with tinted windows, the same man sits in silence, the silver bracelet resting in his palm as he studies it like it holds an answer. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel Hayes is not thinking about profit or power or control. He is thinking about a girl on a sidewalk who gave something away without asking for anything in return, and he is already planning to come back tomorrow. The next morning, the cold arrives earlier than the sun, settling into the cracks of the sidewalk as Emily Carter sets up her table with slower hands, her fingers still sore from the night before, her mind replaying that strange conversation on a loop she cannot seem to shut off. She tells herself it does not matter, that people come and go, that one missing bracelet will not change anything. But something about the way he looked at her, like she was more than just a girl selling jewelry on the street, refuses to fade. She exhales, adjusting the small display of rings, straightening each piece with care, because no matter what she feels, she still has to sell, still has to earn, still has to keep going. And then, at exactly 8:10 a.m., she feels it before she sees it, that quiet shift in the air, that sense of being watched again. Her eyes lift slowly, almost against her will, and there he is, standing in the same place across the street, like yesterday never ended. Her chest tightens, not with fear this time, but something sharper, more confusing. He came back. He did not take the bracelet and disappear like everyone else who could not pay. He came back. Emily looks away quickly, pretending to focus on her display, but her awareness of him lingers in every movement, every breath. A few customers pass. A man buys a pair of earrings. A woman asks for a discount that Emily cannot afford to give. And through it all, she can feel his presence like a shadow that refuses to leave. Minutes stretch into an hour, and finally, he moves. Not toward her, not at first, but closer, step by step, until he stands at the edge of the sidewalk, just within reach of her world. Emily does not look up right away, forcing herself to finish wrapping a purchase, but when she finally does, he is already there, quiet, steady, watching her with that same unreadable expression. "You came back," she says before she can stop herself, her voice softer than she intended, and for a moment, something almost like a smile touches his lips. "I said I would pay when I could," he replies, and this time, he does reach into his pocket, pulling out a few crumpled bills, placing them gently on the table beside the empty spot where the bracelet used to be. Emily glances down at the money, then back at him, surprised, because she did not actually expect him to return. Not really. People say things all the time, promises that dissolve the moment they walk away. But he did not. She nods slowly, picking up the bills, her fingers brushing lightly against his for the briefest second, and something in that contact sends a quiet ripple through her chest. Most people do not come back, she admits, her honesty slipping out again before she can filter it, and he studies her for a moment, like he is measuring the weight of those words. Most people are not given a reason to, he says quietly, and the simplicity of it catches her off guard. There is no arrogance in his voice, no attempt to impress, just a statement that feels heavier than it should. Emily hesitates, then gestures slightly toward the table, toward the pieces she made with her own hands, the ones that carry stories no one ever asks about. You could have taken anything, she says, almost teasing, almost testing, but you chose the simplest one. And for the first time, he looks down at the bracelet now wrapped around his wrist, like he had forgotten it was there. Simple does not mean less, he replies, and when he looks back at her, there is something different in his eyes now, something warmer, something closer. Emily feels it, that shift, that invisible line between stranger and something else beginning to blur. And she does not know why, but for the first time in a long time, the cold feels just a little less sharp. What she does not see, what she cannot hear, is the quiet vibration of a phone inside his coat, a name flashing across the screen, a world waiting for him to return, and the fact that Daniel Hayes ignores it completely, choosing instead to stand there just a little longer, as if this moment matters more than anything else he is supposed to be. Emily tells herself it is just another day, but nothing feels the same after he returns the money, after he proves he is not like the others, after he stands there like he actually sees her, not just the jewelry, not just the transaction. The hours pass slower than usual, stretched thin between small conversations and long silences, and somehow he does not leave, not completely, drifting in and out of the edges of her space like he belongs there in a way she cannot explain. By noon, the temperature drops again, the wind sharper now, cutting through layers that were never enough to begin with, and Emily rubs her hands together, trying to keep feeling in her fingers as she finishes wrapping a necklace for a customer who hesitates too long before finally paying. When she looks up again, he is watching her hands, not her face, like he is paying attention to the way she works, the care she puts into something most people overlook. You make all of these yourself, he says quietly, more statement than question, and she nods, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Every single one, she replies, her voice carrying a small note of pride she does not often let show. He studies the table again, slower this time, like he is trying to understand the time behind each piece, the late nights, the tired mornings, the quiet determination it takes to keep creating when no one is watching. How long does it take? He asks, and she pauses, considering, because it depends on the piece, on the day, on how much energy she has left after everything else. Some take an hour, she says, some take a whole night. And something about that answer makes his jaw tighten just slightly, like the idea of her working through the night does not sit right with him. Emily notices the shift, even if she does not understand it, and for a moment, neither of them speaks. Then a sudden gust of wind sweeps through the street, stronger than before, catching the edge of her display and sending a handful of lightweight pieces skidding toward the ground. She reacts instantly, reaching out, but she is a second too slow. The jewelry spills across the sidewalk, tiny flashes of silver against gray concrete. Before she can even crouch, he is already moving, stepping forward, dropping to one knee without hesitation, gathering each piece with careful hands as if they matter. Emily freezes for a second, surprised, because people do not usually help. Not like this, not without being asked. She quickly kneels beside him, their shoulders almost brushing as they work side by side, picking up what little she has before someone steps on it or it gets lost between the cracks. Thank you, she says softly, meaning more than just the moment, and he shakes his head slightly, as if the thanks is unnecessary. You should not have to do this alone, he replies, and the words land heavier than they should, settling somewhere deep where Emily does not usually let people reach. She glances at him, searching his face, trying to figure out why someone who barely knows her would say something like that, why it sounds like he believes it. Their hands meet again as they reach for the same ring, and this time, neither of them pulls away immediately. There is a pause, small but undeniable, a shared awareness that something is shifting between them, something neither of them planned. Emily looks away first, her heart beating a little faster, her thoughts suddenly less clear, and when they finally stand, placing the jewelry back on the table, the space between them feels different, closer, quieter. What she does not realize is that this moment, simple as it seems, is the one Daniel will remember later. Not the boardrooms, not the deals, not the numbers, but the way she said thank you like it mattered. The way she never once acted like she deserved more than what she had. And as he straightens his coat, glancing briefly at the watch he has not checked all day, he makes a decision he does not fully understand yet, but knows he will not take back. The afternoon light begins to fade earlier than it should, casting long shadows across the sidewalk as Emily counts the small stack of bills in her hand, her fingers moving slowly, carefully, like each dollar carries more weight than paper should. It is not enough. It is never enough. But today it is slightly more than yesterday, and that is the only way she knows how to measure progress. She exhales quietly, folding the money and slipping it into the worn pocket of her coat, her eyes drifting instinctively to the man still standing nearby, as if part of her now expects him to be there, like a constant she did not ask for but cannot ignore. "You do not have to stay," she says after a moment, her voice gentle but edged with curiosity, because no one lingers this long without a reason. He tilts his head slightly, as if considering the question, then answers in that same calm tone that never quite gives anything away. "I know." And somehow that makes it even more confusing. Emily studies him for a second, then shakes her head lightly, almost smiling despite herself, because there is something disarming about the way he refuses to explain himself. A customer approaches, interrupting the moment, and she turns her attention back to the table, slipping back into the rhythm she knows, explaining prices, offering small discounts she cannot afford but gives anyway, because sometimes kindness is the only thing she has left to offer. When the customer leaves, she notices him watching again, not the sale, not the money, but her, like he is trying to understand why she keeps giving more than she gets. "You should charge more," he says suddenly, and she lets out a soft breath, almost amused, and scare away the only people willing to. "Stop," she replies, raising an eyebrow, and for a brief second, there is something like a flicker of respect in his expression, like he did not expect her answer to come so easily. The wind picks up again, colder now, biting through the thin fabric of her sleeves, and she pulls her coat tighter around herself, trying to ignore the chill settling deep into her bones. He notices, of course he does, his gaze dropping briefly to the way her hands tremble before returning to her face, without a word. He shrugs off his coat, a dark, well-made piece that looks far too expensive to belong on this street, and holds it out to her. Emily freezes, caught off guard, her eyes moving from the coat to his face, searching for something that explains this gesture, but finding only quiet certainty. "I am fine," she says automatically, the instinct to refuse rising before she can stop it, because she is used to managing on her own, used to not taking what she cannot return. He does not pull the coat back, does not argue, just says softly, "You are cold," like it is not an opinion but a fact. The simplicity of it breaks through her defenses in a way she does not expect, and after a brief hesitation, she reaches out, her fingers brushing against the fabric, warm even in the cold air, and takes it. The moment it settles over her shoulders, the difference is immediate, a quiet comfort she had forgotten she needed, and for a second, she closes her eyes, just long enough to feel it. "Thank you," she whispers, her voice softer now, more vulnerable than before, and when she looks up, something shifts again, something unspoken but undeniable. What she does not know is that the coat she now wears costs more than she earns in a month, and the man standing in front of her has never given anything away without expecting something in return, until now, until her, and as he watches her pull the coat closer, as if it is something precious, Daniel realizes that this is no longer just curiosity, no longer just a test, but something far more dangerous, because for the first time, he is not in control of where this is going, and he is not sure he wants to be. The warmth of the coat lingers longer than it should, settling into Emily's shoulders as the late afternoon air grows colder, and for the first time all day, she is not thinking about how numb her fingers feel, or how long she can last out here before packing up, but about him, standing just a few feet away, watching her like he is trying to memorize something that most people overlook. She adjusts the collar slightly, still not fully used to the weight of it, to the quiet comfort it brings. And for a moment, she wonders what kind of person gives something like this to a stranger without hesitation. "You are going to want that back," she says, glancing at him. Her voice softer now, less guarded than before, because accepting it feels like crossing a line she does not fully understand. He shakes his head once, simple, certain, like the decision was already made long before she reached for it. "Keep it," he says, and there is no hesitation, no condition attached, just a quiet finality that leaves no room for argument. Emily studies him, her brows drawing together slightly, because nothing about this feels normal, not the way he shows up every day, not the way he watches, not the way he gives without asking. "Why?" she asks, and this time the question is not casual. It is real, searching. He pauses, just for a second, like he is choosing his words carefully, or maybe choosing how much of the truth to reveal. "Because you needed it," he replies, and the simplicity of it catches her off guard again, because she is used to reasons, to expectations, to something in return. But there is nothing here except that one answer, and somehow it is enough to quiet the questions she cannot quite form. A customer approaches, asking about a necklace, and Emily turns back to her table, slipping easily into conversation, but something inside her has shifted, something that makes her aware of him even when she is not looking. Minutes pass, then more, and the sky begins to dim into that soft gray that signals the end of the day, the kind of light that makes everything feel a little more fragile. Emily starts packing up slowly, wrapping each piece with care, counting what she has left, what she sold, what she can carry into tomorrow. When she looks up again, he is still there, not closer, not farther, just present. "You really do not have anywhere else to be?" she asks, half teasing, half serious. And this time, something changes in his expression, something quieter, almost distant. "Not today," he says, and the words feel heavier than they should, like there is a world behind them she cannot see. Emily nods slowly, accepting the answer even if she does not understand it, because she has her own things she does not explain, her own reasons for standing out here every day no matter how cold it gets. She finishes packing the last box, lifting it carefully, and for a moment, she hesitates, unsure why she does not want to leave just yet. "I am heading to the hospital," she says before she can stop herself, the words slipping out like they have been waiting. And as soon as she says it, she feels a flicker of vulnerability she is not used to showing. His eyes sharpen slightly. The first clear reaction she has seen from him all day. "Is someone there?" he asks, his voice quieter now, more focused, and Emily nods, shifting the box in her arms. "My mom," she replies, and even though she keeps her tone steady, there is something underneath it, something tired, something hopeful, something afraid. He watches her for a moment, longer than before, like this piece of information matters more than anything she has said so far. "Then you should not be late," he says, stepping aside slightly, giving her space to move, but not leaving. "Not yet." Emily offers a small nod, adjusting the coat around her one more time before turning to go, her step steady but her mind anything but. What she does not see is the way he watches her walk away, not like someone observing anymore, but like someone making a decision, something shifting quietly but completely inside him. Because now it is not just about her kindness, not just about what she gave without asking, but about something deeper, something he cannot ignore. And as she disappears into the crowd, Daniel Hayes reaches into his pocket, pulling out his phone, finally answering the call he has ignored all day, his voice calm, controlled, but carrying a new edge as he says, "Clear my schedule tonight." Because for the first time in years, there is something more important than everything else waiting for him. And it has nothing to do with business. The hospital smells like antiseptic and quiet worry, the kind that settles into the walls and never really leaves. And Emily walks through the sliding doors with steady steps that hide the exhaustion pressing into her chest, the borrowed coat wrapped tightly around her like a shield she did not know she needed. The fluorescent lights above hum softly as she makes her way down the familiar hallway, past rooms filled with stories she does not have time to think about, until she reaches the one door that matters. She pauses for just a second before pushing it open, her expression softening instantly as she sees her mother resting in the narrow bed, pale but peaceful, the steady rhythm of the monitor a quiet reassurance in the background. "Hey, Mom," Emily says gently, setting her bag down and moving closer, her voice carrying warmth she saves for moments like this. And as her mother stirs slightly, offering a faint smile, something inside Emily eases, just enough to let her breathe. They talk softly, about small things, about how the day went, about the jewelry, about nothing that sounds as heavy as it feels, and Emily never mentions the bills, never mentions the numbers that keep her awake at night, because she does not want that weight to touch this room. A nurse steps in briefly, checking vitals, offering a polite nod, and then she is gone again, leaving behind the quiet that feels both comforting and fragile. Emily reaches into her pocket, pulling out a small piece she kept from her table, a simple pendant she has not sold, and places it gently in her mother's hand. "I made this one today," she says, even though she actually finished it days ago, because sometimes hope needs to sound immediate. Her mother's fingers curl weakly around it, her eyes soft with pride, and for a moment, everything else fades. But then the door opens again, and Emily glances up, expecting another nurse, another routine interruption, only to freeze when she sees him standing there, just inside the doorway, out of place and yet somehow certain. Daniel does not step in right away, as if he understands this is not his space, but his eyes find hers almost immediately, and there is something different in them now, something more deliberate, less distant. Emily blinks, caught between confusion and something else she cannot name, because this is the last place she expected to see him. "What are you doing here?" she asks quietly, careful not to disturb the fragile calm in the room. And he takes a slow step forward, his voice low, controlled, but carrying a weight she has not heard before. "You said you were coming here," he replies, like it is the simplest explanation in the world. But it is not simple, not to her, not at all. Emily glances briefly at her mother, who is watching with quiet curiosity now, then back at him, her thoughts racing, trying to understand how he knew where to find her, why he would follow her here, why he would cross that invisible line she thought existed between whatever this is and her real life. "You followed me," she says, not accusing, not yet, but the words land between them with a quiet tension. Daniel does not deny it, does not look away, and for a moment, the silence stretches, filled with questions neither of them has answered. Then he shifts his gaze slightly, toward the bed, toward the woman Emily has been fighting for, and something in his expression changes again, softer, more human, like the reason he is here is no longer just about watching, or testing, or even curiosity, but something deeper that he has not fully explained yet. And as Emily stands there, caught between gratitude and uncertainty, she begins to realize that whatever this is, whatever he is doing, it is about to change everything in a way she is not prepared for. Emily feels the air in the room shift the moment he steps fully inside. The quiet rhythm of the monitor suddenly louder. The space that once felt safe now edged with something unfamiliar, something uncertain. Her fingers tighten slightly around the edge of the chair as she watches him, trying to reconcile the man who stood silently across the street with the one now standing beside her mother's hospital bed. "This is not okay," she says softly, her voice controlled but carrying a tremor she cannot quite hide, because this place is hers, this moment is hers, and he does not belong in it without explanation. Daniel does not interrupt, does not defend himself immediately, and that silence somehow makes everything feel heavier, more real. Her mother shifts slightly, her eyes moving between them with quiet curiosity, sensing the tension even without understanding it, and Emily quickly steps closer to the bed, her instinct to protect rising before anything else. "Mom, this is someone from outside," she says, choosing her words carefully, not ready to explain what she does not understand herself. Daniel nods politely, his voice gentle as he offers a simple greeting, respectful, measured, as if he knows he is walking into something fragile. "It is nice to meet you," he says, and there is no hint of the distance he carried on the street, no trace of the quiet observer, only a man who suddenly seems very present. Emily watches him closely, searching for cracks, for inconsistencies, for anything that explains why he followed her here, why he crossed into a space she never invited him into. "You cannot just show up like this," she says under her breath, stepping slightly aside so her mother cannot hear, her eyes locked on his. And for the first time, there is something sharper in her tone, something close to hurt. Daniel holds her gaze, steady, unflinching, and when he speaks, his voice is lower, more deliberate. "I needed to see," he says, and the words land strangely, incomplete, like a piece of a truth he is not fully giving her. "See what?" she presses, her frustration rising now, because none of this makes sense, not the watching, not the questions, not this. He glances briefly toward the bed again, toward her mother, and then back to her, and for a moment, something almost like hesitation crosses his face. That it was real, he says finally, and Emily feels something twist in her chest at that, something she cannot immediately name. Real. The word echoes louder than it should, because it implies doubt, implies that everything she has been living, everything she has been fighting through, needed proof. "You thought I was lying?" she asks, her voice quieter now but sharper, more personal, and Daniel shakes his head slowly. "I did not know what to think," he admits, and that honesty, unexpected and unfiltered, disrupts her anger just enough to make her pause. For a second, neither of them speaks. The silence filled only by the soft beeping of the monitor and the distant movement of carts in the hallway. Then her mother reaches out slightly, her weak hand brushing against Emily's sleeve, grounding her, reminding her what matters. Emily exhales slowly, forcing herself to step back from the edge of whatever this confrontation could become, because this is not the place, not the moment. She looks at Daniel again, her expression still guarded but less sharp now, more conflicted. "You should go," she says quietly, not because she is certain she wants him to, but because she does not know what else to say. Daniel studies her for a moment, as if weighing something invisible, then nods once, accepting her words without argument. But he does not leave immediately. Instead, he reaches into his coat pocket, pulling out something small, something familiar, and places it gently on the table beside her mother's bed. Emily's breath catches as she recognizes it instantly. The simple silver bracelet she gave away without expecting anything in return, now resting there like a silent reminder of the moment. "Everything started. I did not come here to take anything," he says softly, his voice carrying a quiet certainty that lingers even after he turns and walks toward the door, leaving Emily standing there, caught between anger, confusion, and something far more dangerous beginning to take shape beneath it all. The door closes softly behind him, but the quiet he leaves behind feels louder than before, pressing into the room. With a weight Emily cannot ignore, her eyes remain fixed on the small silver bracelet resting on the table beside her mother's bed, the same one she let go without hesitation, now returned like it carries a meaning she does not fully understand yet. Her fingers hover over it for a moment before she finally picks it up, turning it slowly between her hands, remembering the exact moment she gave it away. The way it felt like nothing at the time, just another piece, just another day, but now it does not feel small anymore, not after everything that followed. "Who was that?" her mother asks gently, her voice soft but curious, and Emily hesitates, her thoughts still tangled, her emotions not yet settled into something she can explain. "I am not sure," she admits quietly, because the truth is, she does not know what he is. Not really. Not yet. Her mother studies her for a moment, then offers a faint, knowing smile. The kind that sees more than words reveal. "He looked at you like you mattered," she says, and the simplicity of that observation hits deeper than anything else that has happened today. Emily exhales slowly, shaking her head just slightly as if to push the thought away, because she does not have space for that kind of distraction, not when there are bills waiting, not when every decision has consequences she cannot afford to ignore. She slips the bracelet into her pocket, as if hiding it will make everything simpler, easier to understand. But it does not. The hours pass quietly after that, the room settling back into its usual rhythm, conversations soft, movements careful, until visiting hours begin to end and the hallway grows quieter. Emily gathers her things slowly, pressing a gentle kiss to her mother's forehead before stepping out into the dim corridor, her mind still replaying every word, every look, every unanswered question. She walks toward the exit, her steps steady but her thoughts anything but, and as the automatic doors slide open, the cold night air meets her again, sharper now, more biting than before. She pulls the coat tighter around herself without thinking, the warmth still there, still real, and that alone is enough to remind her that none of this is imagined. She steps onto the sidewalk, scanning the street without meaning to, half expecting to see him again. To find him standing in the same place, waiting like he always does. But he is not there. The street is empty, ordinary, unchanged, and for a moment, something in her chest tightens unexpectedly. A small, quiet disappointment she cannot explain. She tells herself it is better this way. That distance makes things clearer, that whatever this is does not belong in her life beyond what has already happened. But as she begins the walk back, her mind drifts to the way he stood in that room, to the way his voice changed when he spoke about seeing what was real. And the more she thinks about it, the less it feels like coincidence, the less it feels like something simple. What she does not see, what she cannot know, is that just a few blocks away, in a building she has never entered, lights are still on long after everyone else has gone home, and behind a wall of glass overlooking the city, Daniel stands in silence. The reflection of the skyline stretching across the window as he stares. Down at the street below, his phone lighting up again and again with messages he has not answered. On the desk behind him, a file lies open, filled with information that was never meant to be personal, but now feels exactly that. Every detail of Emily's life laid out in a way she would never agree to. Every struggle, every payment, every overdue notice. His jaw tightens slightly as he closes the file. His decision no longer uncertain, no longer incomplete, because now he knows, now he has seen. And whatever this started as, it is no longer just observation, no longer just curiosity. It is something that demands action, something that will change the balance between them whether she wants it to or not. And as he finally picks up his phone, his voice calm, but firm as he speaks to the person on the other end, there is only one instruction that matters, one step forward that cannot be undone. The next morning arrives quieter than the ones before, the sky pale and undecided, the air carrying that same cold edge that never quite leaves, and Emily sets up her table with slower movements. Her thoughts still tangled from the night before, from the way he appeared, from the way he left, from everything that still does not make sense. She places each piece carefully, her fingers brushing over the empty space where the bracelet once sat, now resting in her pocket again, heavier than it should be, like it carries a question she cannot answer. She tells herself today will be different, that she will not look for him, that she will focus on what matters, on selling, on earning, on surviving. But the moment she finishes setting up, her eyes lift on their own, drawn across the street to that familiar spot, and her breath catches slightly when she sees it empty. He is not there. No shadow, no still figure watching from a distance. Nothing. She exhales slowly, telling herself this is what she wanted, that this is normal, that people do not just keep showing up without reason. And yet, as the minutes pass, as customers come and go, as the rhythm of the day settles in, there is a strange absence she cannot ignore, like something has been removed from the edges of her world. She shakes it off, focusing on a customer asking about a pair of earrings, explaining the design, the material, the time it took to shape each curve, and for a moment, everything feels steady again, grounded in something she understands. But then a man in a sharp coat approaches, not stopping at the table, not looking at the jewelry, but looking at her. "Emily Carter?" he asks, his tone professional, precise, and immediately, something inside her tightens. She nods slowly, cautious, and he offers a small, polite smile before handing her a sealed envelope, thick, formal, out of place in her hands. "This is for you," he says, and before she can ask anything, before she can understand, he turns and walks away, disappearing into the flow of the street like he was never meant to stay. Emily stands still for a moment, the envelope resting in her hands, her heart beating just a little faster, because nothing about this feels ordinary. She glances around instinctively, half expecting to see him somewhere nearby, watching. But the street remains the same, indifferent, moving on without pause, slowly, carefully. She opens the envelope, her fingers sliding along the edge, pulling out a single sheet of paper that looks too official, too important to belong to her. Her eyes scan the words, once, then again, her breath catching as the meaning settles in. It is a medical authorization, a confirmation, a statement that the full cost of her mother's treatment has been covered, paid in advance, cleared completely. Emily blinks, her mind struggling to process what she is reading, because this is not possible, not without explanation, not without someone stepping into her life in a way she did not agree to. Her gaze drops to the bottom of the page, searching for a name, for something that makes this real, and when she finds it, her chest tightens, her grip on the paper trembling slightly. Daniel Hayes. The name sits there, simple, undeniable, and suddenly everything connects. The watching, the questions, the silence, the way he stood in that hospital room like he already knew. Emily looks up again, her eyes scanning the street with new urgency, her pulse quickening, because this is no longer just curiosity, no longer just confusion. This is something else entirely, something that reaches into her life without asking, something that changes everything she has been fighting for in a single moment. And as the wind moves softly around her, carrying the distant sound of the city, Emily realizes that whatever this is, whatever he has done, it is only the beginning, and she is no longer sure if she is ready for what comes next. The paper trembles slightly in Emily's hands, not because of the cold this time, but because everything she thought she understood about her life has just shifted in a way she cannot control. The street around her continues as if nothing has changed, people passing by, cars moving, conversations blending into noise. But for her, the moment stands still, suspended between disbelief and something dangerously close to anger. She folds the document slowly, her fingers careful, precise, like if she moves too fast it might disappear, like it might turn out to be a mistake. But it is not a mistake. The name at the bottom is clear, undeniable, and suddenly every quiet moment, every unanswered question, every look he gave her feels different. She exhales sharply, her breath uneven now, and without thinking, she begins packing up her table faster than usual, her movements no longer calm but urgent, determined. She does not finish the day, does not wait for more customers, because none of that matters right now. There is only one thing that matters, one person she needs to see, one explanation she needs to hear. The box in her arms feels heavier than it should as she carries it down the street, her steps quick, her mind racing ahead of her, replaying every moment with him, searching for signs she missed, for clues she ignored. The way he asked questions, the way he watched, the way he knew, it was never random, never coincidence. It was intentional. The realization settles deep, tightening her chest with a mix of confusion and something sharper. Something that feels like betrayal, even if she cannot fully justify it yet. She reaches the building sooner than she expects, the glass exterior rising above her like something from another world, polished, distant, untouchable. She hesitates for only a second before stepping inside, the warmth of the lobby hitting her immediately, the contrast to the street almost overwhelming. Everything here is clean, quiet, controlled, nothing like the life she just stepped out of. The receptionist looks up, her expression shifting slightly as she takes in Emily's appearance, the worn jeans, the box in her arms, the coat that does not quite match the rest. "Can I help you?" she asks politely, and Emily straightens just a little, her grip tightening around the box. "I need to see Daniel Hayes," she says, her voice steady despite the storm building underneath. The receptionist pauses, surprised but composed, clearly not used to requests like this. "Do you have an appointment?" she asks, and Emily shakes her head, her patience thinning. "No, but he knows me," she replies, and for a moment, doubt flickers in her own mind, because she is not entirely sure what that means anymore. The receptionist hesitates, then picks up the phone, speaking quietly, her tone professional, and Emily stands there, waiting, her heart beating harder with each passing second. After what feels like too long, the receptionist looks up again. Her expression changed now, more attentive, more careful. "You can go up," she says, gesturing toward the elevators, and that alone tells Emily everything she needs to know. He is expecting this, or at least not surprised by it. The elevator ride is silent, each floor passing with a soft chime that feels louder than it should, and when the doors finally open, the space that greets her is nothing like anything she has ever stepped into before, wide, quiet, filled with light and distance. And at the far end, standing by a wall of glass overlooking the city, is the man who changed everything without asking. Daniel turns slowly as she steps forward, his expression calm, composed, like he has been waiting, and for a moment, neither of them speaks. Then Emily sets the box down harder than she intends, the sound breaking the silence, her eyes locked on his. "You do not get to do this," she says, her voice low but firm, carrying every ounce of confusion, anger, and something deeper she has been holding back, because whatever this is, whatever he thinks he is doing, she is not going to let it happen without a fight. The words hang in the air longer than they should, sharp and unfiltered, cutting through the quiet control of the room as Emily stands there, her chest rising and falling with the weight of everything she has been holding back. And for the first time since she met him, she is not uncertain, not confused, but clear. Daniel does not react immediately, does not step forward, does not interrupt. And that stillness only fuels the tension between them, because it feels like he has already decided how this conversation will go. "You do not get to step into my life, fix things, and walk away like it is nothing," she continues, her voice steady but stronger now, each word grounded in something real, something earned. "You did not ask me. You did not even tell me who you are." Daniel exhales slowly, his gaze steady on hers, not defensive, not dismissive, but focused, like he understands the weight of what she is saying even if he does not regret what he has done. "If I had told you," he says, quietly, "you would have said no." And the simplicity of that answer hits harder than anything else, because part of her knows it is true. Emily shakes her head slightly, her grip tightening at her sides, because that is not the point, not the part that matters. "That was my choice," she replies, her voice lower now, but no less firm. "You took that from me." The silence that follows is not empty, it is full, filled with everything neither of them has said yet, everything that led to this moment. And for a brief second, Daniel looks away, toward the city stretching beyond the glass, like he is searching for something outside of this room, something easier than the truth standing in front of him. "I was not trying to take anything from you," he says finally, turning back to her, and there is something different in his voice now, something less controlled, more honest. "I was trying to give you time." Emily blinks, thrown off by the words, because they do not fit the narrative she has built in her head. They do not align with the anger she thought she understood. "Time for what?" she asks, and this time, her voice carries something else beneath it, something closer to vulnerability than accusation. Daniel steps forward slightly, closing just enough distance to make the moment feel more real, more immediate. "Time to breathe," he says. "Time to not have to choose between your mother and everything else." The room falls quiet again, but this time, the silence shifts, softens, like something is beginning to crack beneath the surface. Emily looks at him, really looks at him, searching for something that feels false, something that feels calculated, but all she finds is a kind of certainty she does not know how to challenge. "You do not know me," she says, but the words come out weaker than before, less certain. "I know enough," he replies, and that is when it lands. Not the money, not the help, but the implication behind it. The fact that he has seen more than she realized, understood more than she intended to show. Her chest tightens again, but this time it is not just anger. It is something more complicated, something harder to push away. "You watched me," she says quietly, not as an accusation this time, but as a realization. Daniel does not deny it, does not soften it. "Yes," he answers, and the honesty of it removes any space for misunderstanding. Emily exhales slowly, her gaze dropping for a brief moment before lifting again, steadier now, clearer. "Then you should know," she says, her voice calm but resolute. "I do not need someone to save me." The words settle between them, firm, undeniable, and for a second, it feels like the line between them is drawn again, clear and unbreakable. But Daniel does not step back, does not retreat. Instead, he nods once, accepting the truth in her words without trying to change it. "I know," he says quietly, and there is no challenge in it, no contradiction, just acknowledgement. "That is why I did not try to." Emily pauses, the meaning of that statement unfolding slowly, and before she can respond, before she can decide what to do with everything he has just said, he reaches into his pocket and places something small on the desk between them, something familiar, something that does not belong in a room like this. and as her eyes fall on it, her breath catches. Again, because this time, it is not just the bracelet, but something more, something that changes the question entirely. Emily's breath catches as her eyes fall on the object resting beside the bracelet. Something small, yet impossibly significant. A thin silver ring. Simple in design, but unmistakably intentional. Its surface catching the soft light of the office as if it does not belong in a world of glass and steel. For a moment, she does not move, does not speak, because everything inside her pauses, suspended between disbelief and something far deeper she is not ready to name. "What is this?" she asks quietly. Her voice no longer sharp, no longer defensive, but uncertain in a way that feels more dangerous than anger. Daniel does not rush to answer, does not push the moment forward, allowing the silence to stretch just enough for the weight of it to settle. "It is not what you think," he says finally, his tone calm but careful, as if he understands exactly how fragile this moment is. Emily lets out a small breath she did not realize she was holding, her eyes still fixed on the ring, her mind trying to make sense of a gesture that feels too big, too sudden, too real. "Then what is it?" she presses, lifting her gaze to meet his, searching for something that feels grounded, something she can hold on to. Daniel steps a little closer, not enough to close the distance completely, but enough to make his presence feel intentional, chosen. "It is a question," he says, and that answer lands differently, softer but somehow heavier. Emily frowns slightly, confusion pulling at her expression, because nothing about this is simple. Nothing about him has been simple since the beginning. "You said you do not need someone to save you," he continues, his voice steady. "And you are right." And for the first time, there is no resistance in her to those words, no need to defend herself, because he is not challenging her, he is agreeing. "So I am not asking to save you," he adds. And now there is something else beneath his tone, something more personal, more exposed than anything she has heard from him before. Emily feels it, that shift, that quiet movement from control to something real, and it makes her heart beat just a little faster. "I am asking if you will let me stand beside you," he says, and the simplicity of it, the absence of pressure, the absence of demand, breaks through every defense she has been holding on to. The room feels different now, not smaller, not closer, but clearer, like the distance between them is no longer something to protect, but something to cross. Emily looks down at the ring again, then back at him, her thoughts no longer racing but slowing, settling into something she can finally understand. This is not about money, not about control, not about fixing anything. It is about choice, her choice, something he took before and is now giving back. She steps forward slowly, her movements deliberate, her gaze steady, and when she speaks, her voice is quiet but certain. "You do not get to follow me without asking," she says, not as a rejection, but as a boundary, something she needs him to hear. Daniel nods immediately, no hesitation, no argument. "I will not," he replies, and there is no doubt in it. Emily studies him for a second longer, searching for anything that feels false, anything that feels like the beginning of another hidden layer. But all she finds is the same quiet certainty that has been there from the moment he chose to come back. Her hand moves slowly, almost instinctively, picking up the ring, feeling its weight, its simplicity, the way it mirrors everything she has been building with her own hands. She does not put it on, not yet, but she does not put it back down either. Instead, she holds it, her fingers closing gently around it as she meets his gaze again. "Then start by telling me the truth," she says, and this time, there is no anger in her voice, only expectation, only the beginning of something that feels real. Daniel exhales softly, a small shift in his posture, like something inside him finally settles into place. "My name is Daniel Hayes," he says, and I should have said that from the beginning. And as the words fill the space between them,